Welcome to the show. This is No Interference. We are your host, Westside, Big Sass, and the Bull. The NFL season has officially come to a close, and the Kansas City Chiefs sit atop the mountain, unfortunately, for Sassafras. It was a great game. Ending a little disappointing. We'll get to that later, but it was one of the more entertaining Super Bowls I feel like I've seen in quite some time.
Definitely agree.
But I guess we can defer to you, Trevor. What do you want to talk about first?
I mean, what is not to talk? What is there not to talk about? Listen, speaking of the best Super Bowls, in my opinion, the best Super Bowls of the last 10 years have been there's some good comebacks in there and stuff. Patriots Super Bowls. The last 10 years, well, those aren't 10 years. Anyways, the last 10 years, I would say the Eagles, both Eagles Super Bowls have been two of the most exciting Super Bowls. High scoring, back and forth games.
Last
Fourth
year's
quarter. Huh?
Last year's was good.
Yeah, but what I was getting to was that I haven't been able to enjoy it at its purest form. When you're watching your team, there's so many things you're thinking about. You're stressed, you're angry, you're emotional. When you're just sitting there as just a football fan, maybe you have some eggs in the basket in a different way, bets or whatnot. But it was a good Super Bowl. It was very enjoyable until the ending result.
I think you take away it could literally be the same outcome. If you take away that unfortunate ending, I think this could have been like, besides the first Giants Patriots Super Bowl, I think this arguably could have been the best Super Bowl in 20 years if you take away the last 2 minutes.
Well, more than, there's more things that go into the game as to why the Eagles lost in that holding penalty. But more than anything, it took away from the game's potential. Like, it was already a great game, but
we wanted
giving the Eagles a chance to go down, Jalen Hurts a chance to go down and either tie the game or win the game.
It was like
with no time left, rather than the Chiefs just wasting the clock for 4 or whatever it was.
It was like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, and instead of getting the ending of Sixth Sense, we got the ending The Village.
Ooh, good. It's a good one. Good analogy. I'm all about it.
Where's your research guy? Somebody just gave you that.
I hired an assistant you guys don't know about.
Yeah, it was rough. This is rough. Rough to end the game like that. I feel like the refs interjected themselves in the worst times all year. And then, they're just not consistent. I get everybody can defend themselves, why they called the flag. But at the end of the day, it was the least egregious hold I've ever seen in my entire life. You didn't call a flag all game for that. And then in the last 2 minutes, they're going to just be like, no, fuck it. Chiefs win.
I saw a stat. I don't know if it was that particular ref that threw the flag or the crew. Well, the crew isn't the crew because in the playoffs, it's not crews. It's just the best refs. I don't remember what they were referring to, but whatever it was, whatever the case was, a holding call on a defensive back, or I guess on the defense, hadn't been called
all game.
No, since December.
Oh, in general.
So they didn't have the whether it was the crew or that ref didn't have, it wasn't his his typical thing to throw flags. And they talk about it all the time. There's holding on every play in the NFL. How is there not? Especially in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, there's holding, grabbing. You have to. If you're a DB and you want to play press, there's no way you don't. You got to get your hands on them. So if you're not going to allow, that play it was a hold, but like you said, it was it was just such a quick hold and release, and Juju, whatever his fucking name is, was so unaffected by it, and he didn't react to it after the fact. Like he didn't like ask for when the ball was overthrown, he just kind of walked, and then the flag. He didn't know the flag was thrown, obviously.
Okay,
but earlier in the game, he thought he got held by Bradbury or pass interfered, kind of hooked. I think it was like the second quarter, and he threw a tantrum for like 30 seconds. So I know it's not the official's job to see like, let me see how the player reacts, even though I'm sure they sometimes do that. But as an Eagles fan, it was unfortunate that was the way the game ended. But there's other reasons why we lost. We shouldn't have been in that position anyways.
So forget it. We've already talked about it for a few minutes. We're just going to stay on this. Okay. We're going to talk about the ending and the penalty. We already went over. It was a kind of a bummer way to end the Super Bowl. No one was to see the game and basically end on a penalty. And like you said, there's more to there's more to it
the
than
hands
the
in the
fact
face to Josh Sweat.
Yeah,
so offensive lineman grabbed his face mask on that same play, but they just didn't want to throw that flag.
At best, it should have been offsetting penalties. My main argument was that was a throwaway. That was not Mahomes trying to lead his receiver. That was a throwaway.
No, it was 100% a throwaway. That was one of the best pressures of the game our D-line got. And they hit Mahomes as soon as he threw it.
Yeah, it was 100% a throwaway. It was a tic-tac call. They hadn't been calling it all game, and to decide the game on that is just
isn't that a rule like where the refs can pick up a flag for pass interference or something if the ball's uncatchable?
Pass interference, but not defensive holding.
Yeah,
that should be the
holding can happen because holding still happens either way.
I'm just saying by the letter of the law, like common sense to me that was a throwaway. And the pressure was there, so they shouldn't have. But
the refs should have the ability to collect themselves and be like, that was obviously a throwaway.
It was a late flag anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Patrick Mahomes was like, it was holding, or whatever he said.
I don't care what Kermit the Frog thinks.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's not even a week after the Super Bowl, so the holding penalty is fair game to complain about.
Yeah. Well, let's move on from the holding penalty. I think we've got our frustrations out about it. Let's just talk about the cold hard facts. And of course, my computer is crashing. All right, we're good. So we all know the final score, 38-35. Some impressive numbers. The Eagles possessed the ball for nearly 36 minutes. The Eagles put up 417 yards of offense. The Chiefs put up 340, so both really good numbers. It was a low penalty game, which is one of the reasons why it was so fun to watch. And then the teams had a combined 9 touchdowns. If you break down the numbers further, Hurts had 71 completion percentage. Patrick Mahomes had 77. And then the Chiefs actually outrushed the Eagles 158 yards to 115, though Jalen Hurts did give you the 3 rushing touchdowns. Defensively, neither team did much. The Chiefs came up with the 1 sack, and they also had the 1 fumble that was just a botched transfer, basically, that they got returned for a touchdown. But this was 100% top offense versus top offense. There wasn't much defense throughout the game. Jalen Hurts, I think, had the second highest quarterback rating in Super Bowl history, if I saw that stat correctly. So good on him. He may have lost the game, but I don't think you can say he's not a upper echelon quarterback now. Like, that argument's done. It honestly should have been done, but it's done now.
Outside of the outcome of that game, the biggest takeaway from everyone should be that Jalen Hurts is that guy.
He's a baller. He's a playmaker.
Yeah, I mean, he showed off what everyone knew he could do. Well, I knew everything he could do already, but everyone knew he could run. And the few doubters that still said he couldn't throw the ball should be put to rest, because It wasn't 1, 2, like 3 great throws. It was like all game he was making great throws, deep
The
balls,
touchdown to
out
AJ,
routes.
the
Yeah,
throw on 3rd and whatever 17 to Dallas Goedert.
everything I talked about it a few weeks ago. Like Jalen Hurts, he just always seems to put the ball in the right spot. After the injury, it was a little different, but this game it was back to it. It just the ball's always right where the receiver can extend their hands and catch it. The Devontae Smith catch that was overturned, that was a great throw, and that was um, a big swing at the end of the first half. But that was a great throw. So Jalen Hurts is great. He's going to get paid.
As he should.
If they gave him a Patrick Mahomes contract, I would be fine with that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I've seen a lot of people complaining. Well, not complaining, but they're like, "Oh, once Jalen Hurts gets paid, that'll be it for the Eagles." I think he's deserving of it. And typically, after you get paid, the first 2 years are not crazy, so the Eagles are still going to have 2 years of cap flexibility. But this got brought up on one of the local radio shows. I can't remember which one. Look at the NFC. I think Jalen Hurts is undoubtedly the number 1 quarterback in the NFC. Who's the other top 3?
There's usually tiers. Let's say there's tiers to quarterbacks.
Carson Wentz is number freaking 2.
No, realistically, Jalen Hurts is number 1 quarterback in the NFC. Who's number 2 and 3?
I mean, one you could. I mean, by the numbers.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers.
I would say okay. Well, here let's say this. We can either go by names. We'll stay with what have you. I'm going to say what have you done for me lately? So 2022. It's Jalen Hurts, and then one could argue Geno Smith is number 2.
He's a free agent, so he might not even be in the NFC anymore.
Well, I'm just saying, as of now.
I mean, we're saying just from last season or overall.
Well, you can't say Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, is the best.
Last 5 years, 2-time MVP.
Yeah, but he's not the MVP player he was 2 years ago.
He's on no receivers. We'll see what happens.
Anyways, Aaron Rodgers is probably top 5. He might not be in the NFC either. He might go to the Raiders.
I hope not.
Okay, let's not even do an order. After Jalen Hurts, you're probably right. It's Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith,
Kirk Cousins,
Dak Prescott.
Yeah. I mean, Tom Brady's retired, but last season he's still.
We'll talk about who's in.
We're talking about moving forward.
Yes.
That's not too many.
So my point was,
some people like Chris Sims want to say Danny Dimes.
I was saying that. Do not say Daniel Jones.
My point is
Kyler Murray.
He's about to get a
contract. Coming off can't stay healthy.
He's coming off a bad knee. My point is, just looking in the near future,
Jimmy G.
Jalen Hurts doesn't really have much competition in the NFC, and it's just about getting that number 1 seed, getting the bye, making it the shortest road to the Super Bowl.
You could Jared Goff. Matthew Stafford could come back next year, depending.
But are you taking any of those over Jalen Hurts?
No, I'm just saying.
And it's
These are the top 10 QBs in the NFL, probably. In no order: Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson,
Justin Herbert,
Trevor Lawrence.
They're all in the AFC.
They're all in the AFC. Who else are we forgetting?
No.
Yeah, I mean, the top
Tua,
7. Jalen Hurts is. Yeah, Tua. Besides the injuries, he was having a great year.
Yeah.
He was in the MVP conversation the first half of the year
until his brain got broke.
Yeah. So you're. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't remember what the beginning of the question was, but Jalen Hurts definitely has much less competition.
Yeah,
we're talking about contracts.
Well, no. Yeah. I was just saying that the Eagles are even if they pay Jalen Hurts, that big money doesn't 'Usually kick in until usually the 3rd year if you're smart about it.
Well, I was reading some Philly article today, and they were talking about the cap space and whatnot. And if they sign him to an extension, it'll actually save them like $2.5 million next year in cap room.
Yeah, that's how it always goes. The next,
Yeah,
like Dak's contract this coming year is when it explodes. Patrick Mahomes' contract this coming year is when it explodes.
well, the thing about Patrick Mahomes' contract, which I would love for the Eagles to do, not saying they will. First off, I trust Harry Roseman. He's probably the best GM in the league, and he's one of the best cap guys.
That's what I've been saying.
Patrick Mahomes' contract, it's so long. There's so much money and bonuses and whatnot. And they can move money around constantly, restructure contracts, and that's what Harry Roseman always does. And I'm not saying Jalen Hurts should do this. I have no problem if he tries to bleed the Eagles dry because he deserves it. But he seems like he loves football so much, like he'll try to make it work to where it's not totally crippling to the Eagles. But either way, if he does take a 5-year, 45 to 50 million per year, I still think Harry Roseman will figure it out.
Yeah.
John is about to re-sign Danny Dimes to a nice fatty.
3 years, 30 million.
And I think that the same argument we just had about Hurts is in Daniel Jones' favor. There's no quarterbacks in the NFC, and you either got to re-sign him if you believe in him, or you restart and you go into the draft and you're back to 3 years ago.
Well, if he didn't play as well as he did this year, he definitely wouldn't be getting re-signed. He had a prove it year this year, and he kind of came through there. I still don't have too much faith in him in the long run.
Yeah.
Also, well, that doesn't really matter. Justin Fields could have a come up year if the Bears can improve a little bit this offseason.
We did forget about Fields potential wise. He's right there, and people are like the Eagles just gave the Bears a blueprint for Justin Fields. I'm just like,
there's no blueprint.
Before he got hurt, Jimmy G was lighting it up a little bit.
Well, I'm just like these now that we're getting these, the NFL has been slowly trending towards. First, it was no one wanted a mobile quarterback, and then we got to the point where it was like Cam Newton was like the face of like that new style offense. Well, that more so college-y offense. But even around Cam Newton's time, quarterbacks just every quarterback was mobile pretty much. And now we're getting to the point where there's like Lamar, Hurts, Fields, Kyler,
Trey Lance, if we'll see what happens.
Trey Lance. We're getting to the point where people don't think of Mahomes and Burrow as mobile, but they can take off and run for a big gain. Like it's just
Josh Allen.
They're both Josh Allen. Like we're just to the point where people don't have to be like, oh well, look at that offense. It's just just a good offensive coordinator. A good offensive coordinator. If your offensive coordinator isn't looking at your quarterback and saying, "This is what you do best. We're going to build our offense around that," then you need to fire them immediately. But let's get back on track to the Super Bowl. 2 teams played. What do you guys think about Patrick Mahomes' performance?
On a hurt ankle, I think he played pretty well, but he only had 180 something yards, didn't he?
No, he had
pretty sure.
Did he?
Yeah, he had under 200 passing, and he had 50,
you're right.
40 rushing or something like that.
Yeah, he was 21 of 27, averaging 6.7 an attempt. And his long was only 20. Yeah. His long was only 22.
3 touchdowns though. They were all wide open. Unfortunately, don't know really how that happened. But
I am a believer that he kind of milks that ankle injury when the camera's on.
Every time he would get up and start limping.
Has a little bit of
and start running.
Has a little bit of LeBron in him, but
high ankle sprain can last for a few months.
But with that being said,
can linger with the slightest tweak.
The thing with Mahomes is just he's just like I don't know. He's just like an assassin. Like he for whatever reason, his O line is good, but it's just he's so hard to get your hands on as a defensive lineman, and then he like his passes are all like no matter what, it's like when he throws the ball, it's going right to a receiver. You as a defense might make a break or knock it down or whatever, might not get caught, but he could literally be running backwards, do a 360 somersault, and throw the ball, and I'm like, it's gonna go right to a receiver's chest somewhere.
Most likely Kelsey's, but
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say Mahomes didn't have a good game. He had a high completion percentage. He, what do you have? 3 touchdowns?
Yep.
He had 3 touchdowns. His passing yards were low because the first half the Eagles did such a good job having possession. I think Mahomes they scored on their first drive, and then pretty much
missed a field goal and then had a punt.
Yeah, and they had a return. The Eagles had a drive that went to the 50, and then the fumble return touchdown happened. So the Eagles got the ball back and went on a long drive after that and scored. So kept him off the field a long time. Completely different in the second half. Chiefs were able to score every possession, long drives. They didn't really have any explosive plays all game. The most explosive plays they had was the Travis Kelce touchdown for 18 yards, and then in the fourth quarter, Patrick Mahomes' scramble for 20 yards.
It was the Kelce touchdown, the Mahomes scramble, and then McKinnon got a sort of long run, but other than that, it was just death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, I mean, he had a really good game. He did what he needed to do. The MVP for the Chiefs unanimously is Andy Reid.
Yeah, it's got to be a player.
He masterclassed Jonathan Gannon on the opposite side. I don't want to say he outcoached Nick Sirianni because I don't think Nick Sirianni coached a bad game. Some people question decisions he made in the fourth quarter, but we can get into that later.
Yeah,
Andy Reid is just, everybody knew he was a good coach. Is a great coach. He's, in my opinion, the best coach in the league, and he has been pretty much since Patrick Mahomes took over. And good coaches need good players too.
While we were talking about Gannon, and this was my biggest complaint. The Eagles, we've kind of thrown Gannon under the bus throughout this season, rightfully so.
We gave him credit. He deserved credit.
The defense did good, and his name's on it. But we've had our complaints and said that the players deserve a lot of credit too. But my thing was the Chiefs have been running their motions all game. They've been doing it all Andy Reid's career in Kansas City, and every time they ran a motion, you saw the Eagles safeties and corners, make their little checks and swap responsibilities. And every single motion they did it. And it wasn't even they were doing anything amazing. And it was just before anything happened in the fourth quarter, I was like, when are they going to mix it up? They're just motion, swap. And then we get to the fourth quarter, and the Chiefs run their motion, and it's kind of a false motion whip route kind of thing. The Eagles make their call. The motion doesn't go through, so you have the guy up top making the read, expecting to swap. You have the guy underneath not swapping because the motion doesn't really happen, and then you get back-to-back touchdown plays where the outside receiver is literally has a 10-yard radius of openness, and it's walking touchdown.
Kadarius Toney or Sky Moore scoring a touchdown. Thank Andy Reid for making you monies.
Yeah, and it's just
both of those. Well, all three were motion plays, the touchdowns. The first one to Travis Kelce, he was actually, I think Slay was covering him, and he motioned inside. And for what the Eagles were playing like a man defense, and for whatever reason, like Marcus Epps came flying down. They were playing like a cover one or something, and he played press coverage on Travis Kelce and got beat. There's no chance. Why? I like Marcus Epps, good player on a great defense, but not. He's probably the weakest link on our defense, and why you would have him cover the best player on the field potentially.
That's actually
beyond me.
Good point.
That's where I was going. I lost my train of.
It wasn't a weird motion either. Slay was standing right there. Slay could have stayed where he was.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming Slay. That was the play that was called. It just doesn't make sense to me. The two motions for the touchdowns in the red zone in the fourth quarter, the motions, the in and outs both times. That was coaching in game and like overall. Like the Eagles had like apparently they maybe had issues with motion all year, and I don't know what coaching needs to be done to help them understand that better, but they didn't get it because both of them, like on the Sky Moore one, was egregious because Vontae Maddox came flying and following the motion and pointing off, and it was just like nothing happened. There was like a lack of community. I don't know what was going on. It was both of them were embarrassing. You could say coaching adjustments in game. Gannon could have like switched to like a more zone type defense, like just have somebody in the flats in the red zone. I don't know.
That was I lost train of thought earlier. That was my main gripe. Take away the touchdowns that ended up being wide open touchdowns. That defensive scheme or plan, I hate it because Patrick Mahomes does have some flexibility at the line. As a defense, you never want to let the offense dictate the match. The NFL these days is a matchup game. You try and get your best player on the matchup you want, and then you expose it. You never want to let the offense dictate your matchups. But with the defense that they were running all game, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs come out in their formation, whatever play, look at who they got. They're like, oh, there's their coverages. Oh, let's run a motion because I want to get this guy on that guy, and we know the Eagles are going to switch. Now we got the matchup. Or from the get, if you have the matchup, don't motion. We're fine. But if they defense, we don't have to look. Oh, let's motion, get the flip, and now, like you said, I got Epps on Travis Kelce. There's where I'm going. So I just hate that. I just hate that defensive philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate because my biggest gripe with Gannon since he's been defensive coordinator is his, and I know the league's trending in this way, is that soft shell, don't want to give up the big plays defense. But for 2 years straight, it is not successful against top-tier quarterbacks. Lower-tier quarterbacks you can feast on with that kind of defense. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady last year in the playoffs will pick it apart. It almost seemed like he made no adjustments in the second half. And he doesn't blitz a lot. We have a great 4-man rush, and he blitzed, I think, either the most he has in a game this year or at least top 3, which shows me he couldn't think of any adjustments besides I got to get to Patrick Mahomes as fast as I can. And like we were playing soft coverage all game too, giving up underneath stuff. They were gashing us in the run game. You could argue there were some exterior issues causing the D line not to perform?
Speaking of RJ, do you want to talk about the sod father?
Yeah, good old Sodfather. Used to be best buds with Lamar Hunt. I think it was his first gig laying sod down. It was for Kansas City. And he's done every Super Bowl since. Now I kind of want to look back and see how the grass was when the last time the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl. Apparently, they've been growing this stuff for 8 months, and it's a new type of grass. You want to try out for the Super Bowl? Yeah.
So,
Everybody, there's an ice skating rink out there.
Patrick Peterson?
Patrick Peterson said, like, if they put the grass outside, it gets cold in Arizona at night. You know, it's a desert. And then they bring the grass back in, and if the roof's open and it's hot and humid, the grass kind of thaws out, but it's still slippery and wet. And I guess that type of grass, that blade of grass, it like lays flat, so it just creates like a disaster.
Well, honestly, clearly had somebody in his pocket.
We're gonna get into that conspiracy,
huh?
Or are we gonna get into that conspiracy about how the Chiefs apparently were fully prepared, but the Eagles kept having to change cleats until they figured out what got the best?
Well, there's people have done the research. I wish I could cite his name, but some guy went through every play and did the percentages, and on 38% of Patrick Mahomes dropbacks, a Eagles defender slipped. It was only like 16% for Patrick Mahomes, or for
Jalen Hurts.
Chiefs defenders when Jalen Hurts was dropping back. There's tons of footage of Eagles switching out their cleats. Jalen Hurts did it like after like the first few drives. He had
switched his Jordans.
Yeah, he switched, which he'd been wearing those all year, but he switched them both of them all year. And then apparently the Chiefs, there's no video or anybody seeing that their players switch cleats. So it's like, did they know what are they called? Studs under the cleat?
Yeah.
They knew what length to wear. And that's not an uncommon thing for players to switch shoes if the field conditions aren't great. There's a reason why you have more than one pair. And I think you're supposed to go out in the field before the game and test it out, but you can't test it out like a full speed game pass rush and warm-ups. And both Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick, I looked at it multiple times today, were both rushing the edge, and they both are really, really good at getting really like low. Parallel. Huh?
They're both good at dipping.
Yeah, both good at dipping, getting low. And it's hard for those linemen to stay with that. And they both slipped on the same drive. Josh Sweat almost sacked Patrick Mahomes. I think it was in the first quarter, slipped. So I'm not one to say, these conspiracies are real. It's probably it's an unfortunate coincidence.
Lucky coincidence.
That's what I'll say. The NFL should be ashamed that
Agreed.
That's the field. Like, there should be no slipping in the Super Bowl. Like, there's a reason why they play in warm weather / domes in the Super Bowl, because you want the best two teams to have their best possible outcomes. And when there's players slipping and sliding everywhere, it's just like, come on now.
It wasn't even the slipping. The field was awful. Like, by the second half, not even the second half, before the second half, there was tons of like huge gashes in the field, like very like obvious like spots where the grass had just been completely torn out.
If a player dragged their foot on a catch or getting tackled, you just saw the mark. It was like a meteor, just hit the ground. Travis Kelce slipped on the sideline after he scored his touchdown. He was walking, and he slipped backwards. Yeah, that was very disappointing. That that was almost more disappointing than the holding penalty because that was like avoidable.
A lot more effective.
Like, if everyone knew this before the game, like the NFL should have known that this grass might be slippery, or they should have known like the day of, like get like a giant blow dryer out there, start drying that stuff.
RJ was cracking me up when we were watching it, and at halftime they're talking about how crappy the field was, and RJ was like, "Sodfather's 94 years old, about to retire, and now he can't go out like this. He's gonna have to keep working another year."
You were talking about the Sodfather during the game.
Yeah. RJ was all about the Sodfather during the game.
I think it's such a funny play on words with the name. Sodfather. Done every Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the legacy of Andy Reid? He gets a second Super Bowl. I thought it was a masterful coaching job.
He's riding Mahomes' coattails. Just kidding.
Well, people make that argument.
I know they will.
Good coaches need good players. Good players need good coaches.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he didn't have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl.
Phil Jackson had Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaq. Bill Belichick had Tom Brady.
They're the best three players of all time.
Yeah. The list goes on.
Mike Shanahan had John Elway.
Yeah, John Elway.
And couldn't win with him until he had a Hall of Fame running back.
Yeah, but that was a short career too.
Yeah, I mean, you look at any great coach, they're going to have great players. Look, obviously, you can make your players better. It goes both ways. Like, players can make coaches look better, and coaches can make players look better. That goes hand in hand. But Andy Reid's a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
I was really happy for him to get his first Super Bowl. Not this one. One's enough.
Not this one.
Yeah. He stole two Super Bowls from me.
The first one, you're counting as a steal?
First one with his terrible game management against Patriots in 2004, and then this one. That just real messed up what he did to Jonathan Gannon.
And then Jonathan Gannon still got hired by the Arizona Cardinals of all teams. Yeah.
Those coaching adjustments are rough. But Andy Reid, and we talked about it last week, and he has one of the best records like post-bye, which is funny. 2 of his losses after the bye are in the Super Bowl. So he's 2-2 in the Super Bowl, right? Yeah.
Can we talk about the poaching of the Eagles coaching tree?
Yeah, now you guys are left with nobody.
So Gannon,
what? I'm not worried about either one.
Bless you. Bless you.
I think I'll talk about it because it's the Eagles. Shane Steichen, I like him a lot, and I like him more after his Colts press conference. I don't know if you guys saw it, but he listed off every single Eagles starter and backups on offense, and kind of got choked up saying they're the reason why he's here. So I like him a lot, and I would have been fine with him staying. Now, from what I understand, and I don't think this is abnormal, is that the offense is Nick Sirianni's offense. He's the head coach. He called plays last year until he gave it up because he wanted to focus on head coaching, and it worked out. But he's part of the game plan. I would say it's not Shane Steichen's playbook. It's Nick Sirianni's playbook. Shane Steichen has input and whatnot, and he calls the plays, but I would say they're Nick Sirianni's plays. And it's his. I would say it's his offense. He even, without saying it during the season, saying it's. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said it's like Philly football or whatever he said. Like that's the way he wants his offense to be ran. Like, I guess if you're a coach and you have no idea how to run an offense, you get a coordinator like Doug Peterson did. He didn't know anything about defense, so he got Jim Schwartz, and he said, "You coach the defense." He pretty much said, "You coach the defense, I'll coach the offense, and then I'll do the head coaching stuff." I didn't really feel that was the case with Nick Sirianni, with Steichen or Gannon. So that's why I feel comfortable with Steichen leaving. Also, we have Brian Johnson, who is highly touted and is very successful and successful in college. I can't remember the list I saw earlier, but the quarterbacks and players that had their best years with him. It's a pretty long list. And he has a long history with Jalen Hurts. So anybody that's saying, "Oh, it's a different offense, it's a different voice in his ear, it's going to take adjusting," all the stuff, a slight adjustment maybe, but not that bad. It could be worse.
Yeah.
Now, you can follow up if you want.
I was just going to say, I think we talked about this. I think the Colts making this move, and after their history of recycling old damaged goods at quarterback, I'm calling it now. Colts are pulling the trigger on Anthony Richardson in the draft.
You did say that.
Calling it now. So
that would mean he was 4th overall?
Or they could trade back, but I think he's got to be their target.
What about Levis?
If I'm Shane Steichen, I want the closest thing to Jalen Hurts. Strong-bodied, mobile quarterback that can run the RPO, push the ball downfield. Jalen Hurts has developed because he has the want to, but
he should change minds of people's opinions on you can't fix accuracy or your mechanics, because
what's funny is Josh Allen for a while was people go, you can take a raw physically gifted quarterback and develop him into a winner, and then Josh Allen all of a sudden the last 2 years there's some decline in this passing. Jalen Hurts was even worse quarterback in college, and now a lot of people regard him as the best deep ball thrower in the NFL now.
He doesn't have a cannon of an arm by any means. We saw it at the end of the game. But he can put the ball where it needs to be.
Joe Montana said, it's not throwing darts at balloons, just throwing balloons at darts.
Facts. Jalen Hurts can do that. What were we talking about?
Coaches.
Oh, yeah. I want to go to the other side of the ball. Gannon. I'm glad he's gone. I didn't like his
Get the hell out of here.
I didn't like his adjustments or his scheme. I've said that for the last 2 years. I said I wanted Gannon out earlier this year. Now, my opinion changed a little bit when the Eagles defense really started to ramp it up. But I can, now that the season's over, look objectively at it and be like, not saying the Eagles had a weak schedule, but you can look at the quarterbacks they faced, and it is what it is. They didn't face top tier quarterbacks. Who are the best quarterbacks they played this year? Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers. Those are probably the 3 best quarterbacks. They all put up. They all.
He froze.
I hate him so much. I literally had no problem with Taylor Heineke until the game he beat the Eagles. But anyway,
it wasn't even that. It's a celebration at the end.
Yeah, the celebration at the end, and
the first down.
The Jordans, have fun with that.
Okay, the Jordans are really cool. Fuck you.
Even Washington fans didn't want him to start. Bring Carson Wentz back.
They did the game I went to. Everybody was cheering Heineke's name before the game started.
Carson Wentz was garbage.
This is before Carson Wentz even threw his first pick.
Oh, really?
This is before the game started.
Well, anyways.
Carson Wentz.
When Washington gets to the Super Bowl, we can talk about them. But those three quarterbacks, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, all put up over 30 points on the Eagles this year. So that goes to show me. And who are you playing in the playoffs? Top tier quarterbacks, unless you're in the NFC. But at the Super Bowl, you probably are. And Gannon proved that the defensive scheme of not wanting to give up big plays and letting your front four rush. One, we have great players rushing the ball. So throughout the season, you're going to be able to win those one-on-one matchups. The Eagles don't do anything crazy on the D-line. There's no stunts or anything like that. It's win against your guy, and they did it all year. They have great corners. They have a really versatile safety and nickel corner, and they have two decent linebackers. So, yeah. I don't think Gannon was any, it wasn't Jim Johnson out there.
RP.
So I'm fine with him leaving. Whatever coordinator does come in, I don't think the philosophy is going to change a lot because I think that's just what the NFL does as far as not wanting to get burned by great quarterbacks. But, maybe not play so soft all the time and play like scared. Like if you have a huge lead, sure, maybe. But let your great corners and great players on defense do things and play man every once in a while. Like disrupt the opposing offense in some way. Don't let them just go through their rhythms and figure things out. And like, oh, we can get this here, we can get that there. And I mean, but since the beginning of the season, Taylor, you mentioned it all the time, like misdirection, motions, and stuff, sweeps, like always seem to give the Eagles issues. And I think that was partly due to play calling. So
now, last thing I want to talk about regarding the Super Bowl, Juju Smith-Schuster.
Ugh. 7 catches, 50 yards, big mouth.
He's my I didn't like him when he was on the Steelers, and now I don't like him anymore.
First it was TikTok boy.
TikTok boy.
Now he's posting the Bradbury Valentine's Day card. I just think he's a clown.
Consider better myself.
I mean, 100%. I mean, you can.
And like we were talking yesterday, I'm not 100% convinced that when Mahomes was like, he's probably just bored. Everyone was like, "Oh, Mahomes got AJ Brown." First of all, how? Second of all, I'm pretty sure he's talking about Juju. I'm fairly certain.
I'm pretty sure he was too.
But yeah, you had one good year, and then the Steelers tried to make you a legit star, and you basically crapped the bed. I'm pretty sure he's the one that got lit up and fumbled the ball that cost him a playoff berth like 2 or 3 years ago, whatever
That's
it was.
That's why he hurt his shoulder too.
Jalen Hurts Juju's best play of his career was when he avenged Antonio Brown and decked Vontae Burfict. That was the only time he's done anything good. It was the best catch he ever made. It was the best play he ever made. Let those social media guys have fun on social media. AJ Brown put him in his place, and everybody agreed. Even some other people chimed in. Yeah, I just definitely one of my least favorite players in the NFL.
Heard that.
Definitely glad I did.
Anything else you guys wanted to get out there?
Referees need to go back to school.
Back to school.
Back to school.
Yeah, it's a disappointing loss. This is a weird. Hear me out. I feel better about the Eagles right now than I did after they won the Super Bowl in 2017.
That's
justified.
Yeah, it's facts.
I felt they were older. They were, Carson Wentz was injured. Nick Foles was the quarterback. Their playmakers were old. Signed midseason type players like LeGarrette Blount, Jai, Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, older. Nelson Aguilar had one, it was kind of a breakout year for him. Defense was also older. So yeah, I don't know. That's my takeaway from the season. It's going to be a very different team next year, but I'm excited for that. There's no way we're going to be able to sign all those defensive free agents.
Yeah.
Just please sign
C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I wouldn't mind T.J. Edwards getting signed, and if you can squeeze a little bit of the dollar out, Jason Hargrave. But we'll see.
Yeah, I've just parting thoughts. Mahomes is slowly walking towards best quarterback we've ever seen, and Jalen Hurts is going to be a monster for the coming years for the Eagles.
There's 5 quarterbacks in the league I would have no problem signing record-breaking deals to, or being like 10-year guaranteed deals to. It would be Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. There's only 4. Jalen Hurts.
Herbert,
Justin Herbert, 5. And that's a testament to Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Anything else before we close out the 2022 season? Anything else you guys want to say?
Can't wait for 2023. Hopefully, Washington gets a quarterback.
Yep, it was a great season. Our first full season as a show, and we're going to be right back into it. And I'm excited for free agency and the draft coming up.
Off-season shenanigans.
Yep. All right. So that does it for the 2022 NFL season. The Chiefs are your NFL champions. We're moving into off-season stuff, so that's team analysis and draft coverage. If you're someone like me whose team typically isn't good, this is your favorite part of the year because it brings you hope for the following season. So,
could have said it better myself.
Like Sass said, we finished our first full year as a podcast. So, per usual, thank you all for listening or watching. If you haven't yet and you do enjoy the show, maybe this is your first time watching, follow us on social media at the NI Show on Twitter and Instagram. You can watch us on YouTube or Spotify. That does it. Thank you and adios.
See you later.
Peace.